Coming up, divers recover the bodies of 2 of the workers killed in that Baltimore bridge collapse.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Divers have recovered the bodies of 2 of the 6 workers who plunged into the water when the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed after it was struck by a large cargo ship early Tuesday. Officials say the 6 workers presumed to have been killed are originally from Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. CBS's Natalie Brand has the latest from Baltimore.
During a desperate and intense search and recovery Wednesday, Maryland officials announced 2 bodies were recovered from the wreckage of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Divers located a red pickup truck submerged in approximately 25 feet of water in the area of the middle span of the bridge. Divers recovered two victims of this tragedy trapped within the vehicle.
6 construction workers who were on the bridge at the time of the collapse are presumed dead. The NTSB is investigating what caused the cargo ship called Dolly to ram a critical support beam of the bridge early Tuesday. The ship lost power and issued a mayday call before the crash. The NTSB is analyzing the ship's voyage data recorder in hopes of determining what went wrong.
Our entire focus on scene is to collect the perishable evidence.
The Port of Baltimore remains closed to ship traffic. The Navy says it's mobilizing large barges equipped with cranes to help clear the channel and remove submerged portions of the bridge.
The task in front of us, it will be real. It will be daunting.
The timeline is unclear, as the collapse is also forcing companies to divert shipping at one of the East Coast's busiest ports and the #1 hub for vehicle imports and exports.
It is going to lead to a lot of complications for our supply chain.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says he's also worried about the local economic impact to the 8,000 workers directly employed by the port. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Baltimore.
The Coast Guard will have to refloat the more than 900-foot-long cargo ship to clear the waterway. Jason Wilson, president of the Kentucky Automobile Dealers Association, says the Baltimore port is one of the largest ports in America for shipping vehicles. Estimates show last year more than 847,000 vehicles went in and out of the harbor. Wilson says delays in distribution could impact the price tag for Kentuckians in the market for a new car.
What it could mean to a Kentuckian is that vehicle that they're waiting on to come in is going to be delayed. It's not going to be there. It's going to have to be rerouted, or they may have to wait for a different vehicle from a different port altogether.
Wilson says farm equipment also comes through the Baltimore port, and that could play a role in the upcoming growing season. A huge fire in Bowling Green is now contained. It broke out at Valor Oil Company, and the smoke could be seen for miles. The St. Joseph Interparochial School had to be evacuated due to the fire. 2 employees of that oil company were taken to the hospital for minor injuries. All 7 Bowling Green fire stations responded with assistance from other departments. It's still unknown what started the fire.
We are tracking some cool and dry weather to close out your Wednesday. Let's go to First Alert Pinpoint Doppler, and as you can see, not a drop as we go into tonight, all thanks to high pressure. As we zoom out, this high pressure system close to Indianapolis, that will bring some more dry weather tomorrow, also on Friday, so be sure to soak up the sunshine because changes are on the way as we go into this holiday weekend. Right now, though, we are dry, also chilly. Most of us in the middle to lower 40s, possibly some 30s, though, as you get close to the Mountain Parkway. 38 over in Irvin, up to 44 in Jackson, 41 for Moorhead, and 46 over in Pikeville for Pike County at this hour. And all of us wake up in the 30s to walk out the door on Thursday. So a first alert to pack that jacket, as most of us see middle to lower 30s as you walk out the door by Thursday morning. But more sunshine is on the way tomorrow, also on Friday. But again, those rain chances are not far away. More details on those showers, plus a mild weekend coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Cameron, thank you. A former teacher in Letcher County charged with rape wants his bond to be reduced. Brian Bailey is being held at the Letcher County Jail. His bond is now set at $250,000. His attorney asked for a reduction to a property bond and wants Bailey to be incarcerated at home. Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney Nick Whitaker argued against the bond reduction. Judge James Kraft will now review that. Folks in Clay County joined the Kentucky Office of Broadband and the Center for Rural Development for a public listening meeting. The Kentucky Office of Broadband updated folks about the progress of high-speed internet development in their area. The Center for Rural Development President Lonnie Lawson says the pandemic highlighted the importance of everyone having high-speed broadband in their homes.
Obviously, the #1 priority and our top priority has been fiber to the premise, but that's not feasible everywhere. When you get into a lot of these mountains in eastern Kentucky, it's just not feasible. So we look at wireless solutions.
The Kentucky Office of Broadband was established in 2022, and its goal is to encourage, foster, develop, and improve broadband across the Commonwealth. Frontier Behavioral Health opened a new facility today with a special guest. The Martin facility is now open with 16 beds to serve men in addiction recovery. The space has programs to work with patient sobriety, then works with other agencies and programs on employment, education, and more. Governor Andy Beshear was there for the grand opening, saying it's a sign of progress to have the organization working to help people get their lives back while in recovery.
That regardless of how many mistakes you've made in your life, you are still a child of God. You deserve dignity. And that second chances aren't just the right thing to do. They are what we are called to do.
The new facility is already planning to expand, and a new women's facility is on schedule to open this summer in Pike County. Governor Beshear was also in Magoffin County this afternoon, where he joined local officials for a ribbon-cutting ceremony to open the new Magoffin County Career and Technical Center in Salyersville. There are only 3 days left to pass laws in this year's legislative session. Some high-profile bills remain unsettled in the final days. Only about a dozen bills have been made law since the legislature began meeting in January. Lawmakers are expected to meet all day and into the night tomorrow in hopes of sending as many bills to the governor that they want to still have the power to override should he veto them. The sponsor of a $300 million bill to address child care is apparently dead for this session. The Kentucky Lantern reports the bill's sponsor, Senator Danny Carroll, says there was wide support for his proposed Horizons Act. There is some new money in the budget for child care, but Carroll says it's a shame his more ambitious bill won't make it into law. Federal COVID relief money that helped daycares stay afloat is running out this year. A back-and-forth plan to change Kentucky's open records law moves ahead with state lawmakers. We told you about House Bill 509 last week. Today, a Senate committee approved a version of the bill. Despite changes, critics say it still weakens Kentucky's open records law by creating loopholes. Emails and texts about government business sent from an official's personal account or device would be off limits. The bill's sponsor says it updates a law crafted long before electronic communication.
So this bill lives on the fault line in between the public's right to know and the individual's right to privacy. And as such, there is some heat and pressure on that fault line, which we've all experienced in recent days.
Is that democratic government depends upon the informed and active participation of its citizens and requires that government bodies protect the citizens' right to know.
Critics of the bill include the Kentucky Broadcasters Association. It questions limiting information for journalists reporting on behalf of the public. The bill now heads to the state Senate. He delighted and angered Democrats and Republicans alike and was nearly a national candidate for two parties. Former Connecticut Senator Joe Lieberman died today after complications from a fall. CNN's Wolf Blitzer looks back at his political career.
When Joseph Lieberman came to Washington in 1989, he was part of an increasingly rare group, a conservative Democrat from the Northeast.
The American dream is alive and well.
In the Connecticut race against an 18-year incumbent, Lieberman beat liberal Republican Lowell Weicker by less than a point to become the first Orthodox Jewish U.S. senator in history.
Senator Lieberman's office, how may I help you?
Lieberman held traditional Democratic views on the environment and abortion rights, but the former state attorney general was also a strong supporter of law enforcement and a hawk on foreign policy. During Bill Clinton's impeachment battle, Lieberman voted against conviction, but forcefully criticized the president.
It is hard to ignore the impact of the misconduct the president has admitted to.
Despite bucking his party so often, and maybe because of it, Vice President Al Gore chose Lieberman as his running mate in 2000.
I proudly nominate as our next Vice President of the United States, Senator Joe Lieberman of Connecticut.
The first Jewish vice presidential nominee of a major party, his campaign with Gore went into overtime.
CNN right now is moving our earlier declaration of Florida back to the too close to call column.
The toss-up lasted for more than a month until the U.S. Supreme Court ordered the vote recount stopped in Florida, and Gore conceded.
This election is over.
Lieberman's relationship with his own party became more strained over his strong support of the Iraq War.
I completely disagree with Senator Lieberman.
A position that doomed his presidential run in 2004. His support of the troop surge plan likely played a role in losing the Democratic nomination for Senate in 2006. But his political career was not over.
He won the primary. I'm exercising my right to run as an independent Democrat. I'm loyal to my party, but I have higher loyalty.
Lieberman kept his seat, winning as an independent, but alienated Democrats again in 2008 by siding with Republicans, backing his old friend John McCain for president over Barack Obama. He made no apologies.
None of the Democratic candidates asked for my support. John McCain did.
McCain later wrote in a book that instead of choosing Sarah Palin as his vice presidential running mate in 2008, he should have followed his instincts and chosen Lieberman. His political advisors warned him against it.
It was going to cause a problem in the convention because Joe Lieberman was pro-choice.
Lieberman retired from the Senate in 2013, but continued to speak up politically, supporting President Donald Trump's controversial choice, Betsy DeVos, for Education Secretary. When Trump fired FBI Director James Comey, he even publicly considered Lieberman as a replacement.
He is.
Lieberman would later withdraw his name from consideration. In a career full of unpredictable alliances and political surprises, Joseph Lieberman described one constant that defined his life, whether on the campaign trail or Washington.
I have never shied from a good fight, and I never will.
The 2000 vice presidential debate featuring Lieberman and Dick Cheney was held at Center College in Danville. In his later years, Lieberman was chairman of the No Labels organization, which is looking to launch a third-party presidential bid. Joe Lieberman was 82 years old. Coming up on Mountain News at 11, hear from a man who survived a tornado that hit Freedom Hall in Louisville as we approach the 50th anniversary of the super outbreak.
Plus, more sunny weather is on tap tomorrow before weekend rain chances. Those details coming up.